deception, intelligence, guile. A tapestry of enigmatic and captivating tales of theft and abduction has been woven through the annals of history, yet the saga of Dan Cooper stands as perhaps the most perplexing of them all. Even today, this audacious heist remains one of the most enthralling and baffling crimes on record, where truth becomes entangled in its threads and secrets swirl like wisps of smoke in the clouded air. Before we dive into this exciting story, be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for more mysterious and thrilling tales. And now, let's delve into the world of D.B. Cooper. At noon, on November 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man entered Portland International Airport, carrying a black suitcase. He went to the ticket counter, where he bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, USA, introducing himself as Dan Cooper. The man swiftly boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 305, along with 36 other passengers and a crew of 6. Upon boarding the aircraft, Cooper selected a seat in the middle of the last row, on the right side. He ordered a beverage and lit a cigarette, as smoking was permitted during the 1970s. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Cooper handed a sealed envelope to the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner. Upon opening it, she discovered a handwritten message indicating that he was carrying a bomb. Schaffner, she was compelled to sit beside him and observed what appeared to be 8 sticks of dynamite inside his briefcase. Cooper's demands were straightforward. He requested $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready to refuel the plane upon landing in Seattle. He threatened to detonate the explosive device if his demands were not met. Once the plane was airborne, Schaffner informed the cockpit crew, while another flight attendant, Tina Macklow, remained next to Cooper and served as a liaison between him and the flight crew using a phone at the back of the aircraft. The plane continued to fly for an hour and a half near Seattle, while local and federal authorities scrambled to secure the ransom money and 4 parachutes. The money was gathered in $20 bills from a local bank, while the 4 parachutes were provided by the owner of a nearby skydiving school. At 5:45 p.m., after more than 2 hours past the scheduled time, Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. By this time, the sun had set, and the plane was moved to a remote section of the tarmac. Once the plane had stopped, the ransom money and parachutes were handed over to Macklow, who brought them back onto the aircraft. In exchange, Cooper allowed the flight attendants and passengers to disembark, and most of the passengers were unaware that the plane had been hijacked. After the ransom was collected and only 4 crew members remained on board, Cooper instructed flight attendant Macklow to inform the captain that he wanted to fly south to Mexico City. Cooper also ordered the plane to fly at a low altitude with the cabin lights off and the rear stairs open, but 2 of his requests could not be fulfilled. First, the flight path did not allow for a direct flight to Mexico City. Cooper suggested landing for refueling in Reno, Nevada. Second, it was not possible to take off with the rear stairs open. Cooper agreed to close the stairs, but insisted that Macklow remain by his side to teach him how to open them in midair. After a 2-hour layover, the plane took off again at 7:36 p.m. Less than 5 minutes after takeoff, Cooper asked the flight attendant to return to the cockpit and told her that he would no longer be a problem. The flight attendant saw him standing in the middle of the aisle as if he were preparing to jump. She joined the rest of the crew and locked the cockpit door. 3 hours later, the plane landed safely in Reno. Once the plane had stopped, the crew emerged to find that Cooper and the bomb had vanished. The rear stairs were open and had been slightly damaged during landing. It appeared that Cooper had donned a parachute and jumped out of the plane in the darkness between Seattle and Reno. Upon confirming his absence, FBI agents entered the aircraft and found some evidence: a black necktie, 8 cigarette butts, and 2 parachutes that Cooper had left behind. On the night of the hijacking, the crew and passengers described Cooper as a white man in his mid-40s with brown eyes and dark hair. He was dressed in a dark coat, a dark suit, a black tie, and black shoes. Shortly after boarding the plane, he put on sunglasses. The FBI relied on this description to produce the first sketch of Cooper's face. But it was crucial to determine when and where he jumped from the plane. None of the 4 crew members or the accompanying fighter pilots saw Cooper jump as it happened at night. The crew noted a strange occurrence around 8:05 p.m. when Cooper refused an offer of assistance over the intercom. Shortly thereafter, the crew experienced a wobble in the aircraft, leading them to believe Cooper had jumped. A reenactment of the incident supported this conclusion, allowing investigators to pinpoint the time of the jump. As for the location of the jump, the captain chose to fly along an airway known as Victor 23. Investigators estimated that the plane's likely location at the time of the jump was about 25 miles north of Portland. In the morning, the FBI began a search operation using helicopters, airplanes, and ground forces. The search area was vast and covered in dense forests, making finding Cooper like searching for a needle in a haystack. The rugged terrain, freezing temperatures, inclement weather, and fog further complicated the search effort. Despite extensive efforts, the authorities were unable to find any trace of Cooper or the items he carried with him. With no progress by early December, the FBI shifted its focus to the ransom money. The serial numbers were documented for the $10,020 bills given to Cooper. A complete list was provided to financial institutions, government agencies, and the public, making it difficult for Cooper to spend the money. Northwest Airlines and several newspapers also offered rewards for anyone who could find a matching bill. Despite all these efforts, no one came forward with any evidence for nearly a decade. In early 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was building a campfire on a riverbank in southern Washington. While digging in the sand, Ingram stumbled upon 3 bundles of cash, totaling $5,180. The boy's parents brought the bundles to the FBI, and the bills were immediately examined. The serial numbers matched the ransom money, raising further questions about how they got there. The initial theory was that Cooper dropped some of the money, which was then carried by the Lewis River downstream into the Columbia River and eventually to the Tina Bar area, where Ingram was camping. However, the problem is that the Columbia River flows in the opposite direction, leading some investigators to reconsider the possible landing area. Some investigators have suggested that the landing zone was further southeast, near the Washougal River, which could allow the money to reach Tina Bar, albeit unlikely. There is also the possibility that the bundles of cash landed directly on the Tina Bar bank if the flight path was slightly further west. Further complicating matters is a dredging operation on the Columbia River that took place in 1974, where sediments were removed and dumped at Tina Bar. According to one analysis, the money was found above this layer of sediment, implying that the money arrived there after 1974. But upon closer inspection, it was determined that the layer was entirely natural. Moreover, when the boy discovered the bundles, the rubber bands were still intact. This is significant because experiments have shown that these bands do not withstand exposure to the elements for more than a year. Therefore, the money must have been buried on the shore within a year. The most likely explanation seems to be that Cooper or someone else deliberately buried the money at Tina Bar. Did Cooper survive and bury the money himself? Or did someone else bury the money after finding his remains? Since Ingram's discovery in 1980, the Tina Bar area and the Washougal River have been searched numerous times, but no trace of Cooper or the remaining money has been found. Many believe that Cooper did not survive his daring jump, but there is no definitive proof of his survival or death. When Cooper jumped into the darkness, Flight 305 was passing through a severe, cold rainstorm at approximately 170 knots and an altitude of 10,000 feet. The winds were so violent that they tore off a portion of the aircraft's rear stairs, which was found in 1978 in an area near the estimated flight path. It is likely that Cooper was not prepared for these harsh conditions. The ground below him was covered in clouds, meaning he jumped without knowing his exact location. Even if he could see the ground, the parachute he chose was not steerable, making him unable to guide his descent towards a specific landing point or coordinate with an accomplice on the ground. Some believe that Cooper was skilled in skydiving, but requested 2 sets of parachutes, primary and reserve, to make the authorities believe he intended to take a hostage with him. The FBI decided not to tamper with the parachutes to avoid risking the life of a potential hostage, but they unwittingly provided him with an inoperable reserve parachute designed for training purposes. Based on this information, it seems unlikely that Cooper was well equipped for a successful escape and survival. The questions surrounding his fate and the whereabouts of the money remain unsolved, adding further mystery to this infamous incident.